I think safe to say there is a lot of interest in this kind of information, particularly right now in what feels like quite a slowing job market. I guess I would ask, first of all, how you define best jobs, right? What kind of criteria you used when you were trying to ascertain what these would be?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me today. So, a best job, it would maybe mean a little something different to everyone. So we try to use some broad criteria to define our list. And basically, we're looking at pay, so the median pay of the job, but also how those wages have grown over the last 3 years, demand for that position, so current postings and also growth in postings over the last 3 years. And then lastly, we do include remote work availability. So we know workers do prefer flexibility overall. So we have that as a part of the formula as well.
Laura, I guess I shouldn't be surprised by this, but it is pretty remarkable how many healthcare related jobs are on this list. And indeed, that's the area where we've been consistently seeing hiring.
Absolutely. I think this, supports the data we've seen from the BLS this year in the payroll employment reports and in our Indeed data as well. Our job postings remain quite high in healthcare fields, and you will see on the list 40% of the top 50 roles that we call out are in healthcare. And especially there's a lot of demand in like mental health care, rehabilitative care, and skilled nursing.
I'm also struck, though, there are a handful still of tech jobs, right? I see data scientist on this list. I see solution architect, although I'm not sure what that means, but I know it's techie. How much do you account, and how do you account for AI disruption to some of those roles?
Great question. So certainly tech is in a slow period in terms of hiring overall. However, when we apply our methodology for this, there are some tech jobs that still do kind of rise to the top 50. And it really is about jobs that are specifically about AI themselves, or also are these specialized roles. So like SAP consultant, data scientist, as you mentioned. And for many of these jobs, I mentioned we do consider remote availability as part of the formula. These roles tend to have a relatively high score in that category.
And the top role that we see listed there, cardiac medical tech. I think one of the other interesting things about many of the jobs on these lists is they don't necessarily require a 4-year, college degree, right?
Correct. So about 20% of the roles on the list do not require a 4-year college degree. And I will say, if you read our methodology, we intentionally leave out roles that require more than 7 or 8 years of school. We don't want to say like, oh, all the best jobs require you to go to college for 10 years, right? And so there are jobs on this list. And one of the pretty close to the top is the owner, operator, or truck driver, which certainly doesn't require a 4-year degree. Other of these medical positions might require a 2-year degree or just some sort of certification. So yes, there are quite a few jobs that don't require a college degree.
I guess the other piece, the other question that occurs to me as I look at all of these is, okay, so these are the jobs. Are people training for these jobs?
That's a great question. And I actually, in my own research as an economist, do a lot of work in the community college and technical college space. And yes, they are. If you look at enrollment in both healthcare fields, but also the skilled trades, so HVAC tech is one of the jobs on our list, certainly CDL programs, you'll find wait lists at many of the community colleges around the country in these programs, because these programs are actually pretty hard to scale for the colleges, right? They're expensive to operate. And so they're difficult to scale. So there are people that have been listening to this mantra kind of over the past few years about how there are good jobs out there that don't require a 4-year degree, and they are trying to get these certifications.
So it's interesting because when we have this whole discussion about supply and demand in the labor market, and there's a lot of argument that supply is the problem, what you're saying seems to sort of bear that out.
In certain fields, I think right now it's clear, like, if you look at the payroll employment reports in 2025, demand in like business and professional services, for example, does seem quite soft, and you do not see many of those jobs showing up on this list this year, right? And demand in places like healthcare are stronger because of demographic shifts and other things that are going on in the marketplace. But labor supply is quite constrained in some of these jobs. And so, yeah, I think for some sectors and for some roles, it's more of a labor demand story, but in others, it's certainly labor supply is a big part of the story.
Laura, really interesting research, really interesting list, and hopefully we'll give people some help as they're trying to figure out where they should be looking. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.